Today, we are going to talk about bacteria. We have already addressed this topic from a different point of view. It was last year in one of the first episodes. But today, we will focus on bacterial degradation of glaze suspensions and engobes. We will proceed very rapidly, since today's episode is going to be like a flash, trying to make a list of the most important technical and aesthetic consequences provided by these unpleasant microorganisms. So, let's start. I am Davide Trentini, and this is Apparently Invisible Chemistry in Ceramics. Let's start from an incontestable assumption. That is that all processed water involved in ceramic production, both tap and well waters, usually contains a variable percentage of bacteria, always, without exceptions. And this is the same for inorganic raw materials, usually involved in the grinding process to produce the semi-finished products that will be later applied along the glazing line. We are basically talking about frits, clays, feldspar, nepheline, etc. But no panic, because this introduction is not frightening, because the presence of bacteria is not a synonym for bacterial degradation. Bacteria are present, and this is 100% true, but they can stay quietly relaxed without negatively affecting the suspension. Nevertheless, due to the huge amount of water involved in the glaze and engobes grinding departments, suspensions can sometimes be under the attack of significant bacterial proliferation. And the question is, of course, why? Because microorganisms, bacteria in particular, usually find a suitable and natural habitat within the water and ceramic raw materials. They can be harmless when they do not start their action, but they become a serious problem when they find, together and at the same time, water and organic matter. In fact, as we have already said many times, organic matter that is present within glaze suspensions and chemicals used within the grinding mills is one of the most important sources of nourishment for bacteria. Good. I also want to add another piece by saying that bacterial proliferations, whose origin, as we said, is mostly due to the presence of organic matter, can also be promoted by thermal factors. What does that mean? It means that bacterial activities are usually promoted by high temperatures, and the higher the temperature increases, the more is the possibility of bacterial attack. But why am I pointing out this? Because given the high temperatures that are usually reached during the grinding process of glazes and engobes, it is easy to understand that grinding departments can be considered as a real comfort zone, we could say, for germs and microbes. And indeed, all the tools used in the departments, such as mills, tanks, pipes, are often contaminated, but we usually notice the degradation only when it has reached a high level of proliferation. In other words, we usually smell bad odors only when the problem is underway. And at that point, the system is entirely contaminated, and if you do not take immediately action, you keep on feeding bacteria by using the organic products involved in the grinding process. So, once the problem has been detected, the sanitization of the entire department is the only way to solve it. And the question that now we should ask is, what happened to a glaze under attack? Let's make a step back by saying once again that, as we know, ceramic glaze suspension contains several substances, such as, for example, binders, leveling agents, glues, dispersants, and rheological modifiers. All these elements are useful or even necessary to reach the rheological features and therefore to develop a proper application process. But, and here is the point, the activity of microorganisms attacks the polymers of these materials, destroying the organic part of chemicals in suspension, and so significantly decreasing their action and efficiency. The change that occurs, of course, reflects on the features of the glaze that, since it does not have the proper features according to the parameters of the production line, can lead to many different problems. What problems are we talking about? Let's enter in the heart of the episode by making a list, very shortly and quickly. The most important are surely linked to difficulty in keeping the glaze in suspension. This means that solid particles tend to agglomerate and to be improperly suspended within the solvent, usually precipitating and developing sedimentation phenomena. Then we can talk about lack of cohesion. This problem arises when glaze particles seem to be unbound and not very, we could say, compact. And these conditions are, of course, not suitable for the proper discharge of the suspension on the surface of the rotile. And this is a condition that can lead to technical and aesthetic defects, such as, for example, holes and pinholes. Another problem that may occur is the improper drying time of the suspension. The improper drying time can promote a wrong integration between the layers of the ceramic tile that are applied one after the other along the glazing line. The lack of interaction that takes place between the layers, that is usually due to a chemical incompatibility, may be an important problem not only during the process but also after the firing cycle. The fourth problem of our list is about the improper leveling of the glaze or engobe, a problem that can hinder the application process and that often force to stop the production, also affecting, of course, the proper final result, technically and aesthetically. Last but not least, we finally talk about post-firing defects. Along with holes and pinholes that we have mentioned, the improper parameters of glaze or engobe suspension deriving from the weakening and inefficiency of chemicals in suspension may promote other kind of defects that can negatively impact on the tiles. The reboiling effect, for example, is one of the most common. Okay, as I told you, we decided to short the list, but now I would like to say prevention is better than cure. Yes, because even if all these examples arise quite often, they may seem not enough to understand the importance of defining a prevention protocol to handle and properly treat the working area of the plant, with particular attention to glaze and engobes grinding departments. We are basically talking about preventive actions, and from this point of view, a universal action for all these critical issues does not exist. As usual, it is always important, in fact, to study and develop tailor-made solutions according to the needs of each producer and to the setup of the plant. This means to choose proper operations and to produce products containing specific biocides and sanitizers able to restore the system. And before doing this, anyway, some important parameters should be considered to collect all the data, able to point out the right way to follow. What are these parameters? Okay, pay attention, because I will tell you the list and then I lead. 1. Contamination level of water. 2. Contamination level of raw materials. 3. Type of tanks that contain glazes and engobes. 4. Grinding times. 5. Storage times. And after this simple list, without any other details, today's episode has come to an end. You can obviously call or write us for further information using the contact that you can find on our website. That is ceramco.it, ceramco.it. As usual, I also remind you that you can listen to the previous episodes on the main platforms such as Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or on our app, where you can find a lot of other contents and that you can download for free on Apple Store or Google Play. You just have to type Z and S Ceramco or Apparently Visible. See you soon.